All right, take two. First rule of this channel, we do not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So Stefon Diggs was traded from the Bills to the Texans today. I have the trade details written down here. Bills get a 2025 second rounder that's via the Vikings. And then the Texans get Diggs, a 2024 sixth, and a 2025 fifth. Some of the big news in all this is the Bills are going to have a $31 million cap hit next year on Diggs, and that's probably the biggest thing to take out of this is the Bills are taking a guy that has some an interesting personality and a lot of cap money and moving him because he's over the talent apex for his position. So that's one of the biggest things to kind of take away from a fantasy perspective is the Bills already know that Stefon Diggs is kind of probably past his prime. And the reason why the Texans can take him on is I try and pull him up. The Texans. The reason why the Texans can take him on is because what he's going to provide for the offense is there's going to be less of an ability for the defense to sit on one guy and take that one guy away. So now, and I have the Texans roster pulled up. Is it's going to be really hard. I mean, like Robert Woods is still on the roster. John Mechie, who's at this point he's a bust, a first round bust. But then you have Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Noah Brown, to go with Stefon Diggs. So it's going to be really hard for a defense to like sit on any of these guys and take them away without someone else being able to take advantage of that. From the Bills' perspective, I mean, this moves Khalil Shakur and Curtis Samuel from being like these fringe dark throw guys, like guys that probably shouldn't be drafted outside of deeper leagues, to guys that probably should be drafted in all leagues. And it also moves Dalton Kincaid probably up to like tight end 1 overall. It's going to also upgrade CJ Stroud, slightly narrow the gap between Josh Allen and those other quarterbacks. And we'll talk about all of this. So to finish off the Stefon Diggs trade, as you can see, the Texans have a 2025 out. So like they're only on the hook for Stefon Diggs for one more year. And then the Bills get that massive dead cap hit off their books, and they can move on with life with the guy who's like decline in ability at this point. So all this money down here, like no one needs to really worry about. The Texans get whatever they can get out of Stefon Diggs, and have a run on a championship with that first contract quarterback. Like obviously they won with CJ Stroud in the draft. So that's the biggest thing to take out of all this. I'd be really surprised if the Bills don't either go out and trade for somebody else or pick up someone in the draft. And this is a pretty deep wide receiver class, so like it would not surprise me that they go out and they do that overall. And then I have this as we finish this. So I was planning to get my wide receiver 2 video out today, and it's not going to happen after this. This is too much stuff to go on. So like I said, I definitely think that Josh Allen is still the quarterback 1 overall. That's where I would rank him. I think the gap narrows between him and everybody else because, again, that range of outcome for him having a more difficult road to have the higher passing volume, and that's what makes Josh Allen so valuable from a fantasy perspective. And I can actually bring this up so we can talk about some stuff. So that's one of the things that like helps Josh Allen so much is he's going to be that 4,000 yard passer. That low to mid 4,000 yard passer, about 30 touchdowns. And then he's going to go along with that. He's going to have like 500, 600, 700 yards rushing. And then you see last year he had 15 rushing touchdowns. And that was in a year that we were expecting him to have that regression, quote unquote, regression to the mean. And then he has that spike. So he's probably going to have that regression towards the quote unquote mean this year from a rushing touchdown perspective. Hopefully the turnovers go down a little bit. But like overall, that's kind of what we're expecting. And then the Diggs trade, even though I was expecting Diggs to be in that wide receiver 2 range, the production regression range of wide receiver 2. That's where I was expecting him to go. So Josh Allen losing Stefon Diggs is going to maybe make him a little bit more volatile as a passer, and that's where I think it would hurt him. It's definitely going to drop Diggs in my overall rankings, and it's going to take me a little bit of time to figure out where all these guys go. Like I said, Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakur are going to get bumped up, and I have no idea where I would put them at this point in the draft. They probably, I don't think I had either one of these guys draftable at this point to go into most normal leagues, like deeper leagues. Yeah, sure. But like normal leagues, I probably would be taking a dart throw on guys that had a better range of outcomes to hit as wide receiver one. I think now both these guys do have that ability to not just be wide receiver twos, but to be potentially be a wide receiver one because of there's obviously going to be vacated targets. Those do tend to go to running backs. So again, this is also going to move James Cook up the board and Dalton Kincaid. So there's like all these guys moving up the board for the Bills. And for the Texans, on the other hand, it moves a lot of guys down the board. Right now, probably undraftable Noah Brown. Nico Collins is going to move down. Tank Dell is going to move down. And when I say Nico Collins and Tank Dell are going to move down the board, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad. They're bad picks. It means that you have to adjust what you think the median is going to be for the range of outcomes. They both could finish as wide receiver ones, but they also could really disappoint into wide receiver three territory. They're probably Tank Dell may be a wide receiver three, especially coming off the injury. Nico Collins is probably going to stay in that wide receiver two type range. Again, there's going to be competition for opportunity. It's going to be really tough. The other guy that this is going to really help is CJ Stroud, and I would push him into. He's quarterback 8. I would probably move him up. On this. This is pretty close to what my rankings will be. I probably would have Kyler Murray up a little bit higher. We're not to quarterbacks yet. I probably would keep CJ Stroud about 8 and move Kyler Murray up to 7 again, because that's that rushing upside that we look for. But I would move CJ Stroud slightly up overall, because again, we're expecting that higher volume passing offense to go on. So anyway, Stefon Diggs traded to the Texans. We went over the contract details and the trade details. Overall, this where it moves everybody in the draft. And maybe moves Joe Mixon down a little bit, expecting that the Texans might just be throwing it all over the yard. And some of that rushing stuff isn't going to happen with Joe Mixon, maybe just a little bit stuff to look at in the draft. But yeah, that's about my thoughts on this trade.